Afternoon all. So I've just been looking on the group, and over the last few weeks I've noticed with a lot of new users and some existing users asking what are the deepest settings that you can program the ORX to do and use. Well, there's no magic load of settings, but if we apply a bit of science, and I'll try and keep this simple, to the settings on the ORX that can effectively make your ORX deeper than what it would be in standard, or let's say standard factory settings. And there's three settings, three factors. The first one is the frequency. Now basically, the lower the frequency, the deeper your machine will go. But there's a trade-off. The lower you go, it won't necessarily find, I should say, the smallest finds. What it will do is pick up large masses. For example, with the X35 coil, you can drop the frequency down to 4 kilohertz. Now that's fantastic if you're looking for large masses, say a hoard or something in the ground. But what about if you want to detect generally for those big bits and little bits? Well, on the X35 I'd always suggest either 12 kilohertz if it's quiet, go up to 17. You'll find that those mid-teen frequencies that have been used by hundreds of detectors for many years previous to these multi-frequency machines, that's how they were set, and obviously they've worked and everybody's produced lots of finds from that. With the HF coils, however, it's a little bit different. I tend to go 14.4 kilohertz, which is a factory preset, which seems to be a good all-round frequency for the small bits and the big bits. I have found if you go on a field, and there's one behind me there, there's a little bit of set aside that is extremely quiet, and I've found if you put the frequency up to 26.6, it'll pick out the smallest little bits, and I'm talking like air rifle pellet size things. Obviously it'll pick up the big bits as well if they're there. So that's frequencies. So hopefully I'm not confusing you. The lower you go, the deeper you go. But the trade-off is obviously you probably won't find those smaller bits, so you want to be in the middle. And as I say, I've always maintained 14.4 on my HF coil and 12 or 17 on the X35 coil. The second thing you can do is change the reactivity. What's the reactivity, I hear you say? Right, the reactivity is how quickly the ORX reads what's in the ground. For example, iron and a good tone. So a bit of silver and a bit of iron. It's how quickly the machine will tell the difference. Slow it down, it slows the machine down, it makes it punch a bit deeper. Speed it up, now obviously on the RX you can go down to 1 or up to 3. Put it on 3, wave it over a bit of silver and iron, and it'll beep 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 real quick. So reactivity, the lower you go, the deeper you go, but the trade-off is again, it will slow the machine down. Now for a lot of people, 2 is a good mid-range setting for reactivity. So that's one to try. Again, if you're on a field, say, where there's lots of rubbish, tin, let's think, car boot site, an old car boot site, you need to have that reactivity on 3 because you're going to have so many signals, you're going to need to know what they are. But if you're on there, 2, or if it's clean soil and there's not much rubbish in there, drop it down to 1, but slow your swing down as well. Give the machine chance to read what's there. So frequency, reactivity, and the third one is simply your sensitivity. Now sensitivity is how hard your machine punches into the ground. Now again, if you've got a highly mineralised ground, punching into it can confuse the machine, make it sound off. But again, you get on your average field, something like that, you can get your sensitivity right up high. You know, there's no reason on a nice clean bit of field that's flat, obviously not plough, because with plough again you're tapping your coil everywhere and banging it, frequency too high, lots of false signals. There's no reason why you can't get up to the 97, 98, 99s. You know, very often, I mean here, on that field there, 99, no problem at all. So the higher the frequency, the harder your machine will punch into the ground. So there's 3 settings there, 1, 2, 3. Frequency, the lower you go, the deeper you go. Reactivity, the lower you go, the deeper you go. And obviously sensitivity, the higher you go, the deeper you go, because it's punching harder. What else can you add into the mix? Well, obviously there's a choice of coils. You've got the high frequency coils, 9-inch round, and then you've got the elliptical egg-shaped one, which is, you know, a lot of people use. I've seen a lot of people using it in basements, in very tight areas, in woods, in between, you know, when you're searching in between roots, etc, etc. It's perfect for that, in fact. But for me, again, the 9-inch HF coil, yeah, it's only 9 inches round, and people are like, oh, but the X35 is much bigger. Well, yeah, it is much bigger, but it's for a different, it's got a different use basically. And I've posted on here several times the differences with the coils. But again, all these coils can be used for general detecting in a general way. So, like we just said, X35, 12 kilohertz, 17 kilohertz, it will find the big and small bits. And with the HF coil, 14.4 kilohertz, I've always found is a good medium bit of ground with that one to find the big bits and the little bits. So hopefully that might help a few of you. If you've got any questions, put them below. If I can answer them, I'll try. Obviously, if you've got your own settings and your own reasoning behind it, you know, that's fine, and that's what it's all about. This is just to try and help a few people who've, you know, getting to grips with it and try and understand it. And that's what makes, I think that's the strength of the RX. It is quite simplified, but you can tweak it up. Different scenarios. So that field there is quite flat. We could probably use coin deep. And I hear you say, well, what's the difference between coin deep and coin fast? Well, don't be put off by the fact that it says coin deep and coin fast. It doesn't really mean what it says, although it does, but it doesn't. Let me explain a bit. Both those factory programs have a different makeup. They read the ground differently. It's how they read the ground basically. Coin deep has a far more punchier setup. So if the ground has got a lot of metals in it, you know, a lot of iron and lots of silver and bits and bobs and all different types, it can be a bit noisy and can put you off a little bit and confuse people. You know, we've seen that. But if you've got a very quiet field, like that one again, when there's not many signals, coin deep, the filtering, the way it's been set up, you know, will punch a bit deeper. But as I say, only if it's clean. If it's not, it will confuse the hell out of you and probably put you off, because I know it has a few people. Coin fast, just about the same, but it's a little bit more gentler on their ears, on your ears, I should say. The filtering is different, so it doesn't rave those signals out into the ground. It doesn't punch lots of, it does it much more methodically and simply. I'm trying to put this simply so that people, you know, so you can perhaps understand what I'm trying to say. So what I'm saying with coin deep and coin fast is, if you've got a really clean field, you can probably get away with using coin deep. And obviously put it with the other settings, the lower the frequency, the lower the reactivity, the more sensitivity, where it suits you though, and you want to find those big bits and little bits. See how it goes. If it's a noisy field with lots of signals, you might want to flick over to coin fast, a bit more gentle on the ears. You can pick out those signals a lot easier. So anyway, I hope I haven't confused you. I sort of confused myself a little bit there, but there you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. As I say, if there's any questions, if I can answer them, or one of the other guys will, because you know there's a lot of people in this group who've spent many hours in the field with their RXs. Anyway, I'll leave that with you, and I hope it makes sense, and I hope it might help somebody. Thanks again, take care, speak again soon.